All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner today. It is Monday, September 16th that we are recording this, and Michigan is on to its next quarterback. We've got a quarterback change for the Michigan Wolverines. We are heading into week 4. I will just should we just start there? I feel like there are a lot of things we can talk about. We haven't even, fully gone over the Arkansas State game, which I think that will obviously parlay into what we're talking about with the quarterback change. But I think just in general, I want to talk through the vibes of switching your quarterback after week 3 after a national championship run.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Is that what it is?
It's interesting. So this whole thing is weird with the quarterback situation, right? Because no starter gets officially announced before week 1 against Fresno State. Davis Warren obviously comes out and he starts the first 3 games of the year.
This past Saturday, let me add something in there that like everybody and their brother thought it was going to be Alex Orji up until 3 days before, and then it was like it's like, oh, it's the Davis Warren show. It's the so that adds to it a little bit.
Yeah. So, dude, I don't even know where to start with this. Like, I have so many questions, kind of some concerns. Like, not kind of. I use qualifying words way too often.
Yeah.
I have concerns because it's the whole thing. Going back to whenever Sharon took over, and we talked about this, and to your point, slim pickings in the spring portal. So who can you go get to play quarterback that's transferring after spring practice, which is not ideal, right? You want that time to be able to get those 15 practices in February and March, April, and they don't get a quarterback. And all off season and all of fall camp, all of the insider sites, 247 on 3 and Rivals, it was Alex Orji. And he is, he didn't pull away with the job, but they said Davis Warren was playing really good. But all the tea leaves pointed to Alex Orji taking over as the starter.
I mean, multiple outlets were like, it's a done deal without saying as many words. That's what they said, right?
Right. So, you texted me a couple days before the kickoff, the opener, like, it might be Davis. And we love Davis. We've had Davis on the pod. He's a great guy. Obviously, everyone knows his story. He's just a phenomenal kid. Really, really awesome dude to be around. So we were all excited for Davis, just personally. But still in the back of my mind, like, what the hell happened? Right? Like, what went down? And obviously, we've seen the performance over the first 3 weeks. And look, Saturday, there was a lot of really good mixed in with some really just bad. Right? The 3 picks.
I want to talk about that for a second before we talk through the change. Let's recap the Arkansas State game for a second, because when I met up with you on Sunday to get some tailgate stuff, shout out, I'm drinking a North Peak switchback. So the Clementine Wit, phenomenal.
Got a lot of those in the bed of my truck still.
They will be at the tailgate this weekend too. So come by the Chrysler parking lot and come hang out with us. But shout out North Peak Brewing. Head to Jolly Pumpkin, Pretzel Bell, Grizzly Peak, any of those spots, and you can grab one of these. This is one of my favorite beers that they have, the Switchback. Got a nice little orangish taste. But Davis, like, outside, it's weird to say, like, outside of the 3 picks, right? Like, okay, obviously the 3 picks had a huge impact into the outcome of the game. They end up winning. I don't know. The chart came out today of like, how bad did you really lose or how big did you really win? Michigan was like the 4th team on how much you really won by. Right. And so they dominated the game. If without those 3 interceptions and the turnovers and the penalties, which again, I'm not saying those aren't a huge part of the game, because they absolutely are. And that's why Michigan's making a change. But like, without those 3, Davis is 11 for 11 for, 120 some yards. And Michigan's running the ball. The offensive line is playing pretty well. Like, those 3 interceptions just overshadowed an actually great day for Michigan football, which is weird to say, but like I don't know. So do you have a comment on that part too?
Yeah, I mean, without those 2 picks in the first half, Michigan might be up 35-0 into half, right?
Right.
And they're driving to go up 28-3. They have another drive in the third where he throws his third, which, Marion Walker falls down, but it's double covered to Samaj.
The first one, like Dono should have picked up the block, but David should just take the sack instead of trying to throw it out.
Yeah.
The second one, his elbow gets hit and it like goes straight into the guy's, straight down. And so like I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, oh, if this would happen, they'd be good. Or like they're only a couple plays away. But it is like a weird, a couple things go differently, and we're talking about this game very, very differently.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't perfect, obviously, turnovers. There was a lot of penalties on the defensive side of the ball, too. But I really kind of saw what I needed to see. I mean, Michigan runs for over 300 yards. They did that in 2022 against Penn State, last year against Washington in the national championship. So, like, that's not super often that they're rushing for over 300 yards. I thought, dude, I got the PFF grades in front of me. Colm always had 20 snaps, 15 for $150 and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, you cannot ask for better than that.
Right. So the run game's doing its thing, and Davis has his turnover issues, so they pull him. And made it seem, at least from what I saw and heard, it seemed more like a teaching opportunity. Well, then here today on Monday, Sharon comes out and says Orji's starting. And it's like, it's just been handled really poorly, in my opinion. Look, Davis has 6 picks in 3 games. Not great, right?
So
not
I
ideal.
Think I agree with you there. Like, I don't know that it's been handled in the best way. I don't think that either quarterback right now has confidence going into
exactly. Like, you flip-flopped it. Like, now, like, because what happens if Orji doesn't play well? You go to Jaden Denegal or Jack Tuttle?
Is Jack Tuttle even healthy enough to play? Like, are you gonna Jaden Denegal has Jaden Davis? Like, you're going to guys that have 0 starts now, rather than like it's not even 0 starts, like barely any experience, rather than
snaps, right?
Like, no real snaps. And so, I mean, I think that I wish it was handled differently. I don't know. I think that this offseason had a lot of just like uncertainty, for the first time in a long time, for the first time in 3 years, Michigan didn't know who it was going to go with. Because let's be real with ourselves, even during the Cade versus JJ stuff, we all knew it was eventually going to be JJ. It was just when that they were going to do it. Right. And so I don't know, man. I think that it's been interesting to say the least on how it's been handled. And now I think you kind of backed yourself into a corner a little bit by making a change in week 4, leading into the Big Ten conference slate with USC coming to town.
So here's my thing. If you ever thought you were going to turn to Orji, then why did you not give each guy a half against Fresno State? And why did you not give each guy a half against Arkansas State? And when Orji was in the game on Saturday, I'm looking at his snap count, 5 pass plays to 12 run plays, right? So is that going to be the offense? Because it's not creative enough to just run Alex Orji consistently. There's not enough in this playbook and in this scheme right now. I saw Alex. Here's something that I have a problem with. Why is Alex Orji under center? What are we doing? It's almost even more egregious than having Denard Robinson under center with Brady Oak. Because you take away the one thing that he's really, really good at, and that's the quarterback run, and that's putting a defense into a situation where it's 11 on 11. And you have to account for the quarterback. And so your running backs are able to get through the line a little bit easier. You have to account for Alex Orji. So you put him under center, and it's like, all right, we're just going to bring 11 dudes 10 yards from the line of scrimmage.
I also think, okay, they make a change mid-game, right, because Davis throws his 3rd interception. First of all, in the moment, I don't think that's the wrong move, right, because – I think that anybody who throws 3 interceptions, whether like you kind of have to, your hand is forced, right? No matter how it works. Obviously, there was a lot of frustration with the fans, with the team, with everybody. I think you just kind of you're forced to do that. But to your point, if then you're going to go with Orji, like you're not going to lose that game against Arkansas State, right? So let him throw. Let him air it out more than anything. We know he can run. We've established. You don't need to prove to me or prove to yourselves that Alex Orji can run the read option against Arkansas State. But you do need to prove to yourselves more than me even that Alex Orji can throw. And so why, honestly, you said 17 snaps. All 17 of those, in my opinion, or close to it, should have been passing plays. Get him as many in-game reps as you can, because if you're in your mind going to trot him out there, or if there's even a chance that you're trotting him out there as the starting quarterback in week 4 when USC comes to town, who's played well, by the way. This is not not even like a Caleb Williams. Like Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick, and their team was not good. This is a good USC team who beat you LSU, right?
Yeah.
And so if you had any inkling that you were going to trot Alex Orji out as the starting quarterback this week, you have to see, okay, let's see what he can do when we do have to ask him to throw the ball.
Yeah. I don't think they had any inkling, and I think they're just flying by the seat of their pants right now. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a plan. It's the same thing that we talk about with this offense, and not like Donovan played well, right? Like, just here's a point that I want to make. Donovan played well. I thought he ran hard. Thought he did a good job of finding the hole and picking up yards, and he did a good job. But Khalil Mullings clearly is a difference maker and is a guy that can break tackles and can bust long runs, and he gets 20 snaps, and he gets 15 carries. So now you're tipping your hand, first of all. Right. But secondly, there's an issue in the wide receiver room. I said it last week. Line him up as a slot. Like, there should be – here's my thing. Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings, and Max Bredesen are 3 of the best skill players on your team. I want them to get more snaps than anybody else. I don't need to see Michigan go 5 wide with 4 wide receivers and Colson Loveland.
You got to work with what you got, right? Play to your strengths.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't need it. Listen, Jim Harbaugh didn't go 5 wide with, when he knew
DJ, Nico,
right? Like,
Black,
even though I wish you would have after watching CJ Stroud throw to Nico Collins, but he, my point being, like, in 2021, right? That was no spread offense. He knew what he had, and he played. He's like, I know that we have a damn good offensive line. We have a bell cow of a running back with Hassan Haskins, and we have an average quarterback in Cade McNamara. So except for that Michigan State game where he knew that the MSU defense, that secondary was terrible, then they tried to throw the ball all over the place. Outside of that, they ran the ball. They did what they do really well. You don't need, like, to your point, like, we're thin at the wide receiver position. I don't think anybody's going to try to tell you differently. So then don't try to throw the ball all over the place. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's, Michigan, it's a very interesting. It feels almost like a year 0 now, which it shouldn't with all the talent everywhere. But now it feels like a transitional year. And it feels like a year where Michigan should, on paper, be poised to make some noise and do something and maybe upset a team or two that all the media folks love. Now it's like, can they even get to 7 wins? Like, I don't know. Again, if Orji was going to be the guy all the way up until August 28th, then why is the offense the exact same? Because you cannot run last year's offense with Alex Orji. What you should have done is had an install over the offseason and in spring practice and in fall camp to make the offense take advantage of what Alex Orji does really well and make his life easier and put him in an offense where he can, make the throws that you need him to make. If I'm USC, I'm just loading the hell out of the box until he makes a deep throw, right? And then that's honestly, my other point.
Honestly, even if he does,
just keep loading the box.
Is he going to do it twice? Right? Like, I don't know. I probably would take my chances.
Here's my other point. Why'd they announce this?
I thought about that. That's like so not Jim Harbaugh-esque. Like, he would go in until, 3:29 on Saturday with nobody knowing what's going to happen. right? And actually, as much as that annoyed me over the years because it was so Jim Harbaugh and he did it to the extreme, if there was ever a time to do that, it's now because your two quarterbacks are so completely opposite, right? And you want them. So I mean, I understand like if you want to have your team feel confident in Orji, right? If you want to have Orji feel confident in himself, like I get that part, but if there's ever time just to keep it inside Schembechler Hall, let everybody there know, but not let USC know. Like I don't know.
I just don't see the upside to it.
I agree. And to your point, I wanted to ask you, like, what will this offense look like? They installed it can't be the same offense with Davis Warren because
it might be, Justin. It might be.
It might be. If that's the case, I'm going to be probably pretty disappointed because I don't know. I'm not trying to be this like Davis Warren stan that will die for him.
You would.
I would. I love him. I love him to death. He's an awesome human being.
We're Foxhole guys. Remember,
we are Foxhole guys. But like, dude, when he was on, right? And they were kind of slinging it all over the place at times, right? Obviously, the running game was working really well, but he was throwing it all over the place. I say that for the reason of, is that the offense that they're going to run on Saturday? Can they run that offense? I don't think so. So then, like, are you now in week 4 installing a completely new offense? Or what's the plan here? Tell me, Tanner, help me out.
I have no idea what it's going to look like, right? Because basically what we've seen from Alex Orji this season is zone read. Maybe we'll motion the running back out and there's no threat to pass and we'll run a QB power and it'll get stuffed. Which is very disappointing because I've watched teams around college football. I don't know if you watched much of the if you got to catch any of the LSU South Carolina game. Lenora Sellers, they ran a power read, right? So when he keeps the ball, instead of bouncing outside, he just runs right up the defense and he torched them. And it's like, where is that? Where is that play? Right? Like there's so many plays I watched throughout college football in the NFL where I'm like, I used to watch Michigan and be like, wow, Michigan's creative. Like they're doing cool stuff. They're doing interesting things.
I mean, all right, let's just go back. It wasn't that long ago. I remember it vividly. The Rose Bowl last year. I felt like we had the game plan of a lifetime against Alabama. Every single play had motion in it. They had no fucking clue what was coming at them 90% of the time. And it was still, let me tell you, it was power like 90% of the time, right? But like we ran it so many different ways. And that was the thing with Sharon Moore and Kirk Campbell at the helm, was that everything was so creative. And so my question being, where did that go? It's only been 9 months, right? And it feels like a completely different offense. I understand Jim Harbaugh's gone. Was he super involved in the play calling at that time or building the game plan?
I think more from a game plan perspective. I think, early on in his tenure, it was that, we were pissed because there was 3 guys involved. It was Jed Fish, it was Tim Drevno, and Jim Harbaugh. It was like, they're going down to 5 seconds on the play clock and, it wasn't super efficient. And so, Jim in 21, or I guess 19, but 19 through 21, hands over the reins to Gaddis, right? And he's still involved. He's still involved with the play calling and the game planning and the scripting and all those sorts of things. But yeah, I'd be really curious because, man, last year when Sharon is the head coach against Penn State, I mean, look, they run it a ton. They can't block in the pass game, and they're running QB stretch with JJ on 3rd and 13, picking it up. They're running a draw because Penn State's defensive ends are just pass rushing the entire game, and it
was unbelievable because that's a great example as well where Penn State throws stuff at us, right, that we can't stop. but immediately Sharon Moore pivots and figures it out like in an instant, it feels like, right? Like it was mid first quarter, early second quarter. He figures it out and adjusts the game plan. And from there, to your point, we were moving it and making shit happen. And I don't know. I have not seen the adjustments.
Yeah, so I don't know what the hell the offense is going to look like on Saturday, man. Like, I'm very curious, maybe morbidly curious. I'm sounding very negative.
I know we're bitching. We're bitching.
You see my background, dude. Well, not bitching, but like just raising some concerns with what's happened because outside all this, right? Like, let's forget the quarterback play is subpar and the offensive line has not been great, and the situation at running back is still very murky. And it's like, I don't know how it's not clear. Just think about the defense and how many times these guys miss tackles. They hit guys. I mean, Quentin Johnston's been here since 2020, and maybe even 2019. I don't even know. And hits a dude on a 3rd and 20 out of bounds, and you have a bunch of penalties that are sending drives for Arkansas State, and you have guys just missing tackles in the open field. Now, granted, starters on defense, I thought played their ass off. I think by the time they were pulled out, they gave up 110 yards, and then the 3 points they gave up was off an interception.
That for the first time felt like to me this defense doing what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
Right? Where like last year, this team, both sides of the ball, it was always like, oh, they've got a soft schedule. They're doing this, that. Like, are they really that good? But then we'd leave every single game being like, yeah, they just pounded the shit out of Nebraska at Nebraska. They did. You can call their schedule soft, but they did what they were supposed to do on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that in week 1. I definitely didn't see that in week 2. This defense, for the first time in week 3, I saw that. So if you want to take away a positive, that's got to be your positive, right? It's like it felt like the defense got in their groove. Now, can you do that against a high-powered USC offense? I don't know. But I'd rather see them get into some type of rhythm going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of folks on Twitter that were like, oh, Michigan won 28-18. It's like, dude, they give up 2 touchdowns in garbage time to guys that were getting 40s in the PFF grading, right. With 5 minutes left. So, pretty dominant from the defense. Again, offensively, I guess we can move past this quarterback thing. Spent 22 minutes on it, but offensively, I thought, I thought there was some movement with Crippen in there. I know Jadis slid over to right guard. El Hadi had some assignment issues, but overall, I mean, dude, outside of the right tackle, thought the O-line played pretty good. There's just, again, more and more pass pro issues that are like, you want to know why Davis Warren threw 3 interceptions? At least 2 of those were pressure issues. First one, definitely don't throw it, but I don't know if he's trying to get out of bounds, didn't have the arm strength to get there. But I mean, dude, guys are unblocked coming in. So I don't know, man. Like, I have no idea. Andrew Gentry played 14 snaps as a jumbo O-line, jumbo tight end, 6th O-lineman. Like, I don't know, man. It feels like they're kind of just like, we don't really know. And they do know, but you see it on the field, it's like, really? Like, how much better is he in practice to come out here on Saturdays and then you switch somebody out? And it's like, whoa, that Crippen was in for 2 long drives that were touchdowns. And it's like, I just don't know I don't know, man. I'm confused.
And again, I'm not as smart as anybody in that building. That's for damn sure, right? That's for damn sure. I'm not going to act like it. And they see things that we don't see a lot. But it did feel like, I don't know, sometimes it's like you got to ride the hot hand, right? Like, if something's working with Crippen in there, you got to, I'm sure they both showed, as Sharon said in his press conference today, I'm sure they both showed good promise and they've battled. But I have 2 questions. One, like, to my dumb eye, I'm not, I know football pretty dang well, right? But I'm not a savant. I'm not, I'm not an offensive line coach. But it just seemed things were clicking a lot better, in my opinion, when Cripp was in there. So there's that part. Number 2, how deep into the season can you go with a center battle? I mean, that right
Should've
there,
ended
like,
Friday before the first game, brother.
I think, I asked Seth Fisher this as well, and like, dude, at some point, don't you just go with one of them? If they're that close, then you need to just make a decision and run with it, and you're not going to have that big of a drop off either way, right? You have to make a tough business decision, and you know what? I'll say it right now, like that's what Jim Harbaugh was best at. Love him or hate him for it. Some players hated him for it because he is cold as ice sometimes, but that's why he's a good football coach because he made business decisions.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that's what Nick Saban's done his whole career. That's what Bill Belichick has done his whole career. Nick Saban benched his starting quarterback at halftime of the national championship game.
Yeah. He also started Notre Dame lacrosse star Tyler Buckner over Jalen Milroe last year. And look what Jalen Milroe did.
Shit happens. I don't know. You gotta have some juice to you. I'm not like, again, I don't know what's going inside that building. Like I don't know, but it feels like they're, we're being too nice a little bit. And sometimes you just gotta say, hey, you're not getting the job done. We're gonna go to the next guy. And it feels a little bit also like we don't know what's going to work, so we're going to try all of it. I don't know, man. Again, we're being pretty damn negative for a 2-1 team that won on Saturday for sure. But I think like, and again, I do want to go back to like, I'm being negative. We're bitching a little bit. We're doing all that. If Davis's arm doesn't get hit on that throw, if he takes the sack, let's say he even just has one interception. I feel that we're thinking about this game a lot differently.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a quarterback change, which is just crazy to me. Yeah, I don't know. This year's been weird so far, dude. It's only September 16th, and it's been very strange. So, like, I don't really know what to think, what to expect, but it's nut up or shut up time for Michigan. This early, game 4, like
it does feel like
the
it on the
line, right? Like we said it at the same time because that's what it feels like. Right, like now, look, they lose to USC, and it's a good game. Like it's not the end of the world, but like, man, for all the talk, all the bravado coming out of the building, this defense is gonna be a lot better than last year. These guys are balling.
I think, dude, let's be real with ourselves for a second. That was like, I love Sam. That was the Sam Webbs of the world who's just like trying to pump up Michigan as much as possible. That's my opinion. I think Sam knows ball. There's no doubt about that, right? Like he knows what he's talking about. He gets
great information. Say what the sources are saying, right? So that's not even Sam saying that. That's coming like Sam's not at practice. It's coming from inside the building.
But I think that I think we were all drinking the juice a little bit. Let's be real. Let's be real with ourselves for a second. But last thing I want to ask you is like, we've already talked about it a little bit, but what are your realistic expectations for Orji on Saturday?
Dude, I honestly have no idea. Like, do you want like optimistic, hopeful, copium projections from me?
I think this has been the most realistic pod we've ever done.
Honestly, I don't know how to call it, bro. Like, I really don't. He's thrown one pass beyond 5 yards this year, and that was to Freddie Moore. Which, by the way, I know, Jake, said Freddie was jogging out of his break. I kind of saw that too because he sped up at the end. Maybe he sprints, he catches it. I don't know why he's jogging out of a double move on a post when he's very clearly wide open. But man, Freddie Moore, I thought had some nice plays on Saturday. Like, probably looked like the best. He looked the most like a wide receiver of any of the wide receivers this year. Right, like he was making some plays.
That's another guy that we heard leading into this year, like he's going to be one of the guys, and then we've seen
like was he hurt? Little. Like he had 3 snaps against Fresno State on Saturday. He had 25. I don't remember what he had against Texas, but I don't remember seeing him out there.
I think like if I'm being very honest, I'd rather see that. There, especially in that wide receiver room, there's not much to lose, right? So go try it. Like that's where I'm talking about the Jim Harbaugh being cold, right? Like, like it that's what it takes to be a great coach. Hey, if you can't get it done as the top guy, we're going to the next guy.
That
Right?
should be the expectation. And
You're Michigan, man.
even more so, these guys are getting paid now. So, like, sorry about your feelings, but this is the defending national champions, right? Like, this should not.
You want to be a big boy, you got to play big boy ball.
Right, exactly. Like I told you, I'm at the point where I want to see a Marion Stewart, dude. True freshman wide receiver. Why not 4-star? Like, I just want to see something resembling what a wide receiver looks like. And Tyler Morris was out, so we'll see. I mean, we know he's got potential. I mean, I don't know if he's got the ability to put up big numbers over 12 games, but we know that he has potential to be, a decent wide receiver. That's all we need is decent, right? Like, we just need decent quarterback play, decent receiver play, decent center and tackle play.
I mean, isn't that what we said leading into the season? Was this offense doesn't need to be unbelievable?
They need to take care of the ball, and they have not done that, and that's the unfortunate part.
And the penalties. So I guess we'll end with this now too.
Yeah.
My biggest concerns, I tweeted this out yesterday, I believe it was as well, which was the discipline side of the ball.
Yeah, that needs to be
right. I think that's probably my most disappointing piece of this. And listen, I get it. There's a talent drop off. We have inexperienced QBs. We've got an inexperienced offensive line. There was an entirely new defensive staff, right? The one thing that will drive me up a wall is when you have false starts of a false. I love Marlon Klein too. Cannot do a false. You cannot jump off sides, right? You cannot twitch there, and that and turning over the ball. What did you pull up the tweet at all, or what were you looking up?
No, I was just looking at the PFF grades over there on my second monitor. No, dude, I'm with you.
I'll pull it up while you talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have false starts at home. Can't have holds. Defensively, can't have late hits out of bounds on a 3rd and 20 when the quarterback scrambles for 8 yards. You just cannot have it. Can't miss so many tackles. Like just a lot of things you did not see last year from the same guys. From a lot of the same guys, you're seeing issues, and it's like, where is that coming from?
So the tweet I put it out. Michigan football in 2023 versus 2024. In 2023 for turnover margin, they were first in the country. 2024, 115th. For penalties per game, tied for first in 2023, and in 2024, 43rd. That's not going to win you football games. No. Right? I think that my follow-up to that those stats was, yes, was Michigan ultra talented last year? There's no doubt. You saw that by the NFL draft with 13 guys getting drafted, 4 UDFAs. You can talk about all these guys, right? But how Michigan won was by taking care of the football and not committing penalties. Being first in both those categories, I think if you ask Jim Harbaugh, he would tell you that's the key to us winning a national championship, is we were smart and disciplined. And that's not the case right now.
No, man. And, you think about last year's team, they needed to be number one in both those categories, right? They don't recruit 5 stars at every position to be able to just out-talent you. Yeah, they had a lot of great talent, but they were extremely disciplined. They were technically sound, fundamentally sound at their position groups. And they took care of the football, right? So I think if you look, I think if you take those numbers that you just read off and put them on last year's team, that team goes 9-3.
Seriously,
think how many close games you're in, right? Think of you beat Iowa 26-0. Think of what happens if you have a couple penalties here that extend the drive for Iowa when they're not moving the ball and they get a little momentum. And think of, hey, you're marching down, you turn it over, and that turns into points for Iowa, right? Like just thinking of that game, even though it's 26-0.
Penn State, Macari. McCarty
Maryland,
recovers the
Ohio
fumble,
State, the
right?
Rose
Like
Bowl, like
Rose Bowl, like
I mean,
everything is within even though you go 15-0, every single game is within inches because of the way the ball. I know, not every
the ones in East Lansing, but some of them.
well, that one we could have fumbled 25 times and still won that game.
Nebraska, Minnesota, but later in the season, right? Like that's in those big games. Did Michigan turn over? JJ threw a couple picks against Maryland, which made it closer. But Penn State, Ohio State, they didn't turn the ball over.
I don't believe so.
They turned it over once against Alabama on a muff punt. Did they turn it over against Washington? I don't believe so. I don't think they turned it over against Iowa either.
Yeah, I'd love to look. Actually, what I should go back and look up is their turnover margin in just those like 4 or 5 big games last year.
Honestly, if you take out JJ's 3 picks against Bowling Green last year, they turned over like a few times.
Literally, it's like you can count it on one hand.
Yeah, they were elite in that department. So this year, obviously, you turn the ball over. I mean, dude, football coaches are so cliche, and it's tried and true, right? Like you cannot turn over the football and expect to win. Like it decreases your win probability by so much each time you do it, right? So, and then you couple that with the penalties, not a recipe for success.
Let's look at Saturday. This past Saturday, as an example. Yes, Michigan overpowered them because they were an inferior opponent and they ended up winning that ball game. But to your point, without those turnovers, it's 35-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
And we're rolling, and Alex Orji gets in the game as a backup because they sit Davis Warren because they don't need to play him anymore. Like, that's the case. And it's, again, we're being very negative, and there's a lot to be positive about. There's a lot to be negative about with this football team, but there are a couple just discipline issues with this football team. And we said it leading into this year, going to that Texas game, right? Like the way that they could win that ball game is that you don't turn the ball over and you play good defense and you just, let's try and run the ball and get going. And they turn the ball over, and it turns from a 10-3 game to all of a sudden, what was it at halftime?
24-3. You have on the first drive, you have a false start. So when Donovan gets 6 yards, it's 2nd and 9 instead of 2nd and 4.
Yep.
Right? Like, yeah, Texas kicked Michigan's ass, right? Don't get it twisted. But that's a game that they really helped Texas along the way. They made
it a lot easier.
Michigan beat themselves still. Like, both things can be true. So that would have been a much more competitive game if Michigan didn't turn it over in the way that they did. But would they have been able to move the ball enough to score? Who knows? But there's a lot of football to be played, and there's a lot of teams that Michigan can beat if they take care of the football, even if you're punting. What's going on with Tommy Doman? Like, what the Monstars take his ability? I don't understand. He was a monster last year.
We need to, can we phone Iowa? I need the guy with my favorite T-shirt at the Big Ten Championship in 2021 was at Brothers when the guy's shirt said "Punting is winning." That's there is not a better T-shirt out there. So,
well, he's doing a lot of punting with the Chicago Bears now, Justin. So,
well, we need to get some of their superpowers down there. But that's another one. To be honest, that to me that's part of the discipline side of things. Is Michigan also won the last 3 years by having the best special teams in the country, hands down.
Yep.
Never made a mistake. Right? You have Moody that's just dominant, right? And then Brad Robbins is a star. And then you go last year, and now you have Zavada who's balling out in the field. But if you can't get, especially if your offense isn't working like it has in the past 3 years, you need to be able to play field position.
Absolutely.
Michigan has not been able to do that.
They have to play field position on Saturday. I think defensively, Michigan will be able to match up with USC and cause some issues. But if they're giving them a short field and Michigan's defense is on the field the entire time, then it might be a moot point. So, yeah, man, I don't know. And I don't think we're being that negative. I think we're just being pretty damn blunt about it, right?
I agree. We're not
there's nothing here that's turning a ant hole or ant hill into a mountain, right? Like there's,
Right.
it's very
It
real.
is what it is.
It's on the field, man. Like this is what we see.
Well,
as
we're talking about
two
what
guys
we're
that don't know
seeing.
jack shit. Although Andrew Bastardas said I sounded like I know ball. I said I appreciate that, brother.
You do know ball.
Big Ten champion Andrew Bastardas came by the tail, plays a flip cup.
What a guy.
Dude, by the way,
He's
no
got to
one
come on the
cares.
pod.
I talked to him about it. No one cares about this that listens to our podcast, but I've gotten a lot better at flip cup this year. Like I just want it to be known. Like I'm kind of balling out there. It feels great.
The couple times during the Texas tailgate, you said it to me. You're like, dude, I don't want to say it right now, but like, I've won most games. I've been like,
bro, I know. I've been locked in. Like when we were playing on Saturday, I was getting one flip, dude. Because there's nothing worse than you're just like, fuck. You're just flipping it. You're just getting stuck, and everyone's looking at you. That's the worst.
I feel like being stuck on flip cup. It's kind of like when you're going through the airport security. And you know how like as soon as you get you're like trying to get everything out, you're trying to I feel like it's kind of like that. But I think being stuck on flip cup is as close as we will get to feeling the pressure of like 100,000 people and being the QB coming into Michigan Stadium.
For sure, man. You know, but yeah, that's just the opinion from somebody who doesn't know ball at the highest level, but you know knows a little bit.
We got to give ourselves more credit, in my opinion, bro.
I don't know, man. Like we're not analytics guys. We're not in depth, review guys like MGO blog or anything. But like I've watched a ton of football in my life, and played a lot. So
we're reporting on what we're seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, and I think it would be easy for us to fluff it up and say, oh, it's not that bad. You'll see it. But I don't know. I need to see more. I need to see better.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. So,
and I think real quick on that too, like I want it to be known as well. Like I think that the players and the coaches feel the exact same.
They want to get it right, dude. Like they care more than literally anybody.
That's what
a couple hundred people in Chevrolet Hall, they care more than all of us combined. Let's be real.
Correct. That's what I think that like if there's one take that pisses me off the most is like, that guy just looks like he doesn't care out there or like whatever. Like, okay, if he didn't care, then he wouldn't have been at 6 a.m. weights every day this summer, right? He wouldn't have put in the work. Like
I've been that guy, unfortunately, in the past. But it's like when they're like, if like 2020 season, I think I kind of
that's like an anomaly, right?
Yeah, I haven't said it in a long time.
Yeah, but like these guys care. They want to get it right. Davis Warren himself, like. There's nobody that wants
he's beating himself up
succeed.
over this, man.
Yeah.
It sucks, right? Like, because he busted his ass just to even get here. Like, I know he's sick of that story, but like, dude, the obstacles that he had to overcome to even get to this position in the first place, not even the position of being a starter, but just getting to play football at Michigan, playing football in college, like, it sucks, man. You wanted him to succeed, but at the end of the day, for me, it's about Michigan winning football games. And whoever gives them the best chance is who I want them to roll out there, right? Like, we love Davis. He's the homie, and I hope that he has, continued part of Michigan's success moving forward. So, I just want it to be the guy that's going to win Michigan the most football games this year that they can. That's all I care about.
Couldn't agree more. And I think all those guys, in as much as they want it to be themselves, like Davis has told me that him and Alex are really, really close, and I think he's rooting for Alex's success this week. And he'd tell you that. And that's genuine. As much as I'm sure he'd kill for it to be himself out there succeeding, but he wants his brother to go win us a ball game. And so we're on to USC. We'll see what happens. We'll have another podcast out for you guys later this week. So we'll, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how much more we can say other than like, let's see what happens. Right. If it goes well, could be awesome. It also could go really poorly, but we'll see what happens. So for us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube, and BlueBy90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.